Hello, on tonight's programme.
55 babies may have lived if they'd received better care at a Sussex NHS Trust. The findings of a hospital's own review.
The rise in romance fraud and dating app scams. Warnings to be careful about who's really pulling on the heartstrings.
Also this evening, less rubbish, more recycling, but who should be bearing the cost to go green?
And 160,000 reasons to be cheerful. The very welcome signs of spring at Hever Castle. Good evening. 55 babies who died in Sussex may have survived if they had received better care from the NHS. That's the conclusion of internal investigations into more than 200 cases at the University Hospital's Sussex Trust.
The findings covered cases between 2019 and 2023 at the trust that runs maternity units in Brighton, Worthing and Haywards Heath. They were obtained by a campaign group set up by affected families.
To Brighton now and Kit Bradshaw, where some of the families have been meeting. Kit, what has been said there today?
Well, Sangeeta, it's down to the tireless campaigning of bereaved parents that we've had today's revelations. That figure that you mentioned, 55 babies who may have survived if their care had been different, that's the conclusion of internal reviews by University Hospital Sussex into 227 deaths between 2019 and 2023. We also learnt today that a government-commissioned review into deaths, maternal deaths here in Sussex, has been expanded. Originally it was just looking at 9 cases, now 15 families. One of those 15 families is Katie Fowler and Robert Miller from Hove. Their daughter Abigail died at the Royal Sussex in 2022 after an emergency caesarean section. An inquest found Abigail's life would have been prolonged if Katie had been admitted to hospital sooner. The couple are now part of the Truth for Our Babies campaign group.
We found each other so easily. To come across a group of 9 families, as it was to start with, relatively easily, relatively quickly, all babies born between 2021 and 2023, definitely suggests a problem at that trust. We've obviously since had other families come forward, so sadly, it wasn't a surprise to us.
Kit, University Hospital Sussex is the focus of 2 separate maternity investigations. What stage are they at?
Well, that Sussex-specific investigation that's been expanded that I mentioned, that was ordered by the government last summer, but still hasn't got a chair. The Department of Health told me today that they are actively working with families in Sussex to appoint a chair and agree terms of reference for what they call a vital review. One review that does have a chair is the National Maternity Investigation. That's Baroness Amos, who was actually in Brighton today to meet some of the affected families. But it means this trust and its maternity services is the focus of 2 separate investigations. Now, we've been speaking to Robin Davis. Her son Orlando died at Worthing Hospital 2 weeks after a caesarean section birth in 2021. We asked her what she thinks needs to change.
There are so many factors within it that need to be corrected. It's not just one, it's not just bad staffing. It's this behaviour and this inability to actually abide to the duty of candour and just put your hands up and just say when something went wrong and this is where it went wrong and we are so sorry and this is how we're going to learn from it. But that hasn't really been our experience.
And Kit, what reaction has there been from University Hospital Sussex?
Well, Sangeeta, the Trust points out that over the past 3 years, its perinatal mortality rate has been well below the national average. They also say they've recruited 40 new midwives and made improvements to their telephone triage service. And in a statement, Dr. Andy Heaps says directly to families, he says, "I want to say directly, we did not always get things right. As Chief Executive, I take responsibility for that," he says, "and I am deeply sorry for the pain and distress you experienced while under our care." His statement continues, "Our purpose is simple, to provide the safest possible maternity care. To do that, we must listen to women and families, learn from moments where care has fallen short and support our staff to make meaningful improvements. We've also got reaction today from 2 Sussex MPs.
I visited the Princess Royal in December. I visited the maternity unit because of my concerns, and I've met with the heads of midwifery and obstetrics there. The team there are doing everything they can in their power to put things right, but that doesn't detract from what we've learnt today about things that have gone wrong in the past.
It's so important that there is correct holding to account for the errors that occurred. It's really important that the hospital also seeks to continuously improve and continue to listen to these parents who did know something was wrong, and often in some of these cases were not listened to.
Now, the families we've spoken to today want action. They're frustrated by the delays to the Sussex review, and they hope that the revelations today about persistent failings in maternity care, both here in Brighton and in Worthing and Haywards Heath over a number of years, will provide fresh impetus both to the NHS locally and politicians in Westminster to bring about meaningful improvements.
Kit in Brighton, thank you.
In other news tonight, Reform's so-called flagship local authority in Kent has been accused of proposing a budget of extreme risk, leaving reserves dangerously low, according to opposition leaders. Council tax is expected to increase by 3.99% if approved at today's annual County Council budget meeting. Reform UK say its financial plans are responsible and aim to reduce the burden of historic borrowing.
A man who broke into a charity shop in Maidstone has been arrested, charged, sentenced and jailed in less than 48 hours. Danny Crawley stole more than £500 from a safe in the business on the High Street. Officers quickly identified the 44-year-old from London on CCTV.
A man from Southend has been convicted of dangerous driving after he tried to evade British Transport Police. Lee Rance was high on drugs and serving a driving ban when he accelerated at speed and crashed into a tree in the city centre, killing his passenger. Police found cocaine, heroin and a gun in his car. He was found guilty at Basildon Crown Court and will be sentenced in April.
You're watching ITV News Meridian in the southeast. Coming up.
A carpet of white on a dark February day. The snowdrops of Kent getting ready to welcome in the spring.
And while it did rain again today, proof there was a little sunshine to be found. When can we expect to see some more? I'll have your forecast.
Ollie here soon. Remember, more from us can be found on our website. Please go to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us. The number's on the screen now, and you can follow us on social media. With Valentine's Day fast approaching, we're being warned about a rise in romance and dating app scams.
Well, the latest figures from one of the world's leading cybersecurity firms show a third of online daters in the UK have fallen victim many to fake AI profiles designed to trick them into emotional and financial traps. Here's Hannah Ludlow.
Everything is going to be better soon. We will spend the rest of our life together, trust me.
This looks like, and even sounds like, popular bassist Becky Baldwin. But it isn't really her. This is a deep fake. A scammer has used artificial intelligence to change Becky's real videos, moving her mouth and body to say things she's never said.
Your mind just goes to all kinds of things that you know would be possible with this kind of technology, and it's very invasive and violating.
The victim was Tommy from the United States. Tommy isn't his real name. A fan of Becky's, Tommy couldn't believe his luck when she connected with him on social media. They chatted for months. She even sent him video messages calling him darling.
Good morning, darling. I'm really so sorry about last night.
The person he believed was Becky later asked him for money for medical bills and food, which he sent. When the account suddenly blocked him, Tommy tracked down Becky's real email address and asked her why. Becky told him she didn't know him and had not been the person he'd been talking to. Cybercrime expert Dr. Jason Nurse from the University of Kent says romance scams like this are on the rise.
Online dating is this place where intimacy can flow very quickly. So you can go from meeting someone one day online to trying to get really close to them another day. So this sort of very, very quick pathway from 0 to to 100 almost is one of the reasons why attackers focus on that, cybercriminals focus on that, and they try to exploit that as quickly as possible.
A recent survey has found 32% of online daters in the UK have been targeted by a dating scam. 55% have been contacted by someone pretending to be a celebrity or a public figure. 90% of victims lost money, with some losing up to £30,000.
But what you want to look out for is people that are trying to rush you, people that are trying to get you to respond super quickly, or are even in the early days trying to figure out about what's your financial position, how much money do you have, where do you work, what do you do? And then even using that or leveraging that a bit to ask you for money or tell you about their financial situation.
Most dating apps now require users to verify their identity. And the government is developing new technology to detect deepfakes to help stop scammers pulling the strings.
The AI technology really needs to be kept an eye on. It should be used for good. It should be used to make things more efficient. Instead, it's somehow letting people make the fake accounts even more believable. And that just seems so backwards.
Hannah Ludlow, ITV News.
Now the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. With more, here's Charlene White.
The Manchester United co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe says he's sorry that his choice of language has offended some people. It follows him saying the UK had been colonised by immigrants, comments which the Prime Minister called offensive and wrong. The nursery worker who sexually abused toddlers in his care is sentenced to 18 years in prison. And the place, which hasn't seen a ray of sunshine in weeks, claims an unusual record. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
The water regulator is asking for people's experiences of the recent South East water supply disruption. It's part of Ofwat's investigation into whether the water company failed to adopt high standards of customer service and provide appropriate support. They're asking customers to email them with when they were affected, their postcode and details of any company communications.
The Big Cat Sanctuary has started preparations to bring a young Eurasian lynx from war-torn Ukraine to Smarden in Kent. The charity raised more than £100,000 for the rescue operation. Ursa was found in a private garden in appalling conditions. A specialist team has started the journey to a rescue centre on the outskirts of Kyiv.
Now, there's a warning that a charge on businesses to pay for the cost of recycling packaging could push up prices. Retail bosses say although they're generally in favour of the move, companies, especially smaller ones, are already under financial pressure.
Well, late last year, businesses began receiving their first invoices under the government's new Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme, known as EPR. With more, Kevin Ashford.
This brewery is already feeling the impact of the cost of the EPR on their business, and it's come at what is already a challenging time.
We've had to think of many ways to actually make up for this deficit. Pricing has been a challenge because passing all this EPR cost over to our customers is not always possible. So we've not been able to put all our price rises through, so our margin has gone down. When we're looking at you make 2 to 3p a bottle of beer, now the impact of the EPR plus the other costs has probably put us in a loss position.
The idea of the levy is to shift the cost of doing this, collecting and recycling waste, from the consumer and more onto the producer, and to encourage those who put the packaging into the system to use less of it.
We're proliferating with packaging, and so ultimately anything that's going to help us make better use of that packaging by putting money into the system is good news. But also it's about driving the type of packaging off the market that is perhaps harder to recycle. So longer term, we'll see more recyclable, easier to recycle packaging.
Environmental campaigners say the introduction of the scheme is long overdue, and they hope it'll improve recycling rates in this country.
Ultimately, in the long run, you do want to see a whole system change, because being stuck at 44% recycling for a decade and not really seeing any decreases in packaging, that's not a good place to be starting from. So we have got a long journey ahead of us, I'm afraid.
It's already estimated that these bills will add about 0.5% to food price inflation. So we're seeing it coming through already now. So that on top of other bills like business rates, higher labour charges, are all making it very, very difficult for retailers. And even the government admits 80% of this charge, which runs into the billions, will be passed to us as consumers because retailers don't have any more capacity to absorb it.
The government told ITV News that the scheme will generate more than £1 billion every year, which must be spent by councils to improve recycling collections, as we aim to cut the amount of waste we throw away. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Now, curators have breathed new life into the display of natural history exhibits at a museum in Sussex.
Well, traditional displays of stuffed birds and animals have been reworked to reflect the changing environment and to appeal to younger visitors. With more, here's Malcolm Shaw.
The Natural History Collection at Hastings Museum and Art Gallery has been a much-loved space for decades, but the taxidermy specimens had become somewhat dated. Now the exhibition has been refreshed with interpretation boards and graphics addressing current environmental issues like pollution, habitat loss and species decline.
We thought, let's really tell the story of the animals, but also the issues that we face with the environment today. So we've integrated those stories into the displays, but also actions that people can take, because we don't want it to be all doom and gloom. We want a positive story as well.
The museum team has worked with a local arts company, Dens and Signals, and home-educated children on the project. The aim is to use the displays to bring more relevant messages to a younger audience and foster their interest in the natural world.
Old Victorian dioramas in museums can often be rather dusty places that you sort of rush through to get to the more interesting stuff, and this has really made me stop and look. The new illustrations, the little zine that the homeschoolers have done, and the focusing in, using the old stuff to focus in and tell a story about climate change and what we can do, and inspiring the children, especially children, to act. I think it's a really nice, it's a very simple intervention, but it's a really nice one.
The renovation of the gallery has been made possible with funding from Arts Council England. The museum hopes the work has given the traditional displays of stuffed birds and animals a new lease of life, reflecting our changing environment and the pressure that exerts on our wildlife. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Hastings.
Now, for many, buying a new build home can be a dream come true, but in some cases it can turn into a nightmare.
The government recently announced it will go further than ever before to build new homes, with the biggest changes in planning rules in over a decade. So what does it mean for where new housing is built and for the quality of homes across Britain? ITV's Tonight programme has been investigating.
I started to realise there was brown staining on the ceiling. The terrace was leaking. There was a lot of fire safety defects, and when they started to repair my terrace, they started to find cracks in the brickwork, and that, like, whole panels of brick had been kind of moving.
Dan is in an absolutely shocking situation, and it just shows how broken the system is when you're buying a new home in terms of consumer protection. And it shouldn't be the homeowners that are left to pick up the pieces.
And you can watch Flood's New Build Nightmares in full this evening from 7:30 here on ITV1 and on ITVX.
Now, it's the news we all need to hear after weeks of rain and gloom. Spring is on its way.
Sorry.
More than 160,000 snowdrops planted at Hever Castle are finally coming into bloom.
Well, with their own special way of beating the winter blues, the beautiful flowers are carpeting the historic estate just in time for its reopening this week. With more, Andy Dickinson.
Out of the flood, the first signs of spring. Snowdrops contain their own antifreeze harvested in World War I to help tanks cope with the cold, and they're now bursting into life at Hever Castle.
We've all had a rather wet and miserable kind of winter, and I think once you see the snowdrops emerging from the grass, they're little white hats kind of floating around, you think, well, OK, spring's here and better things are to come. And we've got some daffodils, would you believe? You know, the lovely yellow daffodil that's come out. We have some here that pop out just before Christmas. So again, I think the mixes of the snowdrops, the daffodils emerging. We've got lovely kind of colourful cornices. There's one called Midwinter Fire that just looks like bonfires. Who knows what the summer's going to have? You know, we can probably have a dry summer. So the wet here is sort of beneficial. Too much rain is not, but obviously, you know, a happy medium. We should be quite happy by the summer.
This yellow snowdrop, the Primrose Warburg, is particularly rare. All the flowers planted here ready to shine in the spring. At least 160,000 snowdrops on display.
So I haven't counted them personally, but each year we plant an additional 20,000. Each snowdrop bulb over the years multiplies, so you start off one year with one flower. In a few years' time, you'll have a dozen flowers. We know the rain isn't going to last forever, so really just take a bit of time out. If your garden is very waterlogged, you don't really want to go out there and you can damage the grass. We know we'll be out in the gardens in a month's time and there'll be loads of things to do, but I wouldn't worry about the wet weather at the moment. So we are governed by Mother Nature, but we kind of work alongside her.
The hope of warmer, drier days to come, these gardens dating back to 1904, in bloom for another year. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Hever.
They look lovely, and it's fine if you're a snowdrop.
Yeah.
It's not great if you're like us, but we're not the only ones, Holly.
No, I mean, a lot of the UK has been really, really wet, but also we've seen quite a change in the distribution of typical rainfall for this time of year. So I can show you what we normally see, where we've got a prevailing southwesterly wind, and it means western parts tend to see the worst of the rain, and then eastern parts tend to get more in the way of dry and bright conditions. But yeah, with the low pressure dominating, it changes the direction of those winds, and you can see across Scotland in particular, it reverses them. So they've seen a massive about turn with their typical rainfall. So this is what you'd normally expect to see. The blue areas here showing the wetter weather. You'd normally see western areas seeing the bulk of that rain, and say particularly western Scotland. This year, or this month, and also in previous weeks as well, it's been the complete opposite. So eastern parts of Scotland have been really, really wet. Western parts have been really, really dry. So for example, Stornoway in the west seen less than 1 millimetre of rain. Durris near Aberdeen in the east has seen over 200 millimetres of rain, and they've been 500 times wetter than Stornoway, so it could be worse. And also, at least our sea creatures haven't started coming on shore and trying to invade as they have in Jersey. Take a look at this. So this
that would have freaked me out.
Yes, yeah, crawling down the road. Apparently, it's not unusual for eels to come on land, but normally they would be in boggy areas or in wetlands. It's very unusual to see them crawling down the road, but they can breathe for several hours out of land. And Dave did pick it up and pop it back in the harbour, so don't worry, he is okay.
Hang on.
Go on.
Are you telling me we should be grateful it's not raining fish?
Just raining cats and dogs, that's right.
Was that eel on its own? It doesn't have lots of friends that are...
I mean, that sounds horrifying.
Yes, it does.
As far as I know, it was just the one. At least that's what I'm praying.
Me too.
Some heavy showers in the forecast, but teaser, there is some sunshine on the way for Saturday. Let's take a look.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
So in the short term, we are continuing with this unsettled look. But yes, there are changes heading our way. The low pressure that's bringing our current weather is slipping southwards. That's going to allow some colder air to tuck in. And then this little ridge of high pressure, this bump here, is going to hopefully give us some sunshine on Saturday. Although you can see another weather front out to the west. That's got us in its sights for Sunday and could even temporarily turn a bit sleety perhaps as that approaches, a little wintry for a time. Out there this evening, some outbreaks of rain, some clear spells around as well. And where you've got the clear skies, you could see a touch of mist and fog, I think, forming for tonight. So you might wake up to that tomorrow morning. Temperature shouldn't fall away too far, 5-6 degrees there. And yes, you start with some mist and fog, some heavy showers, some bright spells, I think, coming through as well, but this chance of heavy showers is always there, and they're quite slow moving too, so you will know all about them. Possibly a bit of hail in the mix as well. And temperatures a bit lower than today's values too, in that northeasterly, highs of just 7 or 8 Celsius. Zooming out to look at the picture for tomorrow evening and overnight, you can see the way that low continues to shift its way southwards, and that allows colder air to tuck its way in. Maybe an odd wintry flurry as we head through Friday night into the early part of Saturday. But yes, hopefully some sunshine to be had on Saturday itself before that return to some more unsettled conditions in general after that. Take care.
TUI sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
So in summary, it's not raining eels, so we should all be grateful.
We should be. Honestly, I think I would faint if that happened to me. Well, it's Jersey, fortunately, so don't be worried. We're fine in the southeast.
That is it from us. Fantastic to have you with us this evening. We'll see you again soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.